Okay, we're now on YouTube, and I'm just going to record. And Antoinette, I'm going to turn this over to you, and you are...
Okay, thank you, Julie.
And Kevin, I just resent that decision as a PDF.
Okay, thank you,
everybody.
Okay.
Kevin, you can go ahead and start as far as I understand.
Okay, I guess the first thing we should do is approve the minutes from the June 25th meeting. I have a motion to do that. I read them and they seem fine to me.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the June meeting minutes.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sure that. Now we have pending decisions, but we're not going to do one for Meredith Joyce Trust, right? That's on abeyance.
Correct.
Okay. And Connors, you just sent us. I don't have it. I can't. I have to go off here in order to get it. Can you tell me the gist of it?
Sure. Given that it was a error by the builder in constructing the pool in the location that it is, it's only a 1.3 foot variance that the board felt that there was not any significant detriment to the neighborhood, and it was to the benefit of the applicant. And it was the only real alternative, given that it's already been constructed incorrectly.
That's the swimming pool on Osborne Avenue, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
I have no problem. Anybody else?
No, it was fine with me.
Okay. I have a motion to approve that decision.
I'll make a motion to approve the decision.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that's done. Sabonic Realty. We don't have a decision on that, do we?
No, that was for your discussion still, since we
Okay.
closed the public hearing.
That's the laundry, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
And you want to move the parking so it's into the setback zone. The property to the east is not occupied. It's owned by the town or the village. So they're not moving into anybody's backyard. I have no problems with it.
No, and the parking's needed for greater mobility in and out of the lot.
Right, and it's on a busy street, and you want all the cars off the street, not on the street. So I guess, David, you could write that one.
Sure. No problem.
Julia, you?
I'm fine. I'm totally fine with it.
Okay.
PLC Hillside Investments, 132 South Main Street. This is the barn, right?
Yep.
And we had approved this already, and the ARB wants us to change it so that the barn remains in the current orientation, south and north rather than east and west.
David, the problem I have is I don't completely understand, how we handle this, in that we reached a decision and issued a decision.
Well, we can modify that. We can modify that approval to grant these setbacks instead of the ones that were previously granted.
Sure, but I'm wrestling still with why. Is it an historic property? Is that what you said?
The property is in the historic district.
Right, but the building, we all agree, is not historic, and they could demolish it if they wanted.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, I'm just wrestling with how the decision we issued becomes withdrawn as a result of jurisdiction I don't quite understand.
Well, the ARB has jurisdiction on any application on this property, being that it's in the historic district. You can deny this request. It puts the applicant in a very difficult position with two boards telling them two different things. And, you know, if it meets the criteria for a variance, they're entitled to ask you to vary it because the ARB wants it in a different location, and you're entitled to vote again on whether or not that location meets the standards.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm wrestling with, because that was already before us, and we decided that it did not meet the criteria for a variance, and that's why we asked for it to be moved. And now we're changing that decision, and I think I wanted more guidance that might have been generated from a meeting between you and counsel for the ARB, because I just feel like we have a jurisdictional issue here more than anything.
There's, as discussion between myself and the ARB's counsel, it is clearly a jurisdictional issue, but it's an issue that the board needs to decide on. You know, if you feel it meets the criteria or it doesn't, then you'd have to vote no or yes, however you feel. And if the ARB then needs to take that into account, and so does the applicant in where they're siting and locating this building. You know,
what I'm asking is, did the ARB issue a decision?
No, the ARB issued their letter that's in the file saying that essentially they wouldn't approve it where it is and are asking that it be moved. So they haven't, from what I understand, they haven't denied it, but that's their inclination, and that's why they put in a memo asking saying that it's their preference that it be relocated to the location that's being currently proposed.
So that's my issue for you, David, or my question. Do they have the jurisdiction and do they have the prerogative to dictate the location of a non-historic building?
They can deny the location that this zoning board approved, yes. Saying that the structure of that size and that location does not maintain the historic character of the property.
Even though the building is not historic?
Correct, because the properties in the historic district, and from what I understand, the main residence it's a question of I believe this is in their memo, the size of the carriage house and the proximity to the main residence, and that's why they would prefer it in this location and would not be inclined to approve it where the zoning board approved it.
I also frankly recollect that one of the statements that was made is that even though it's not a historic building, had it been originally constructed, that the orientation would have been shifted. That was one of the points that was made in the first time it was brought before us in this redo. And that was part of what was leading them to ask for that. That it was more historically accurate that it be oriented in the way that they're now suggesting.
Has it always been north-south? Was it at one time east-west and they changed it to north-south?
I don't know the answer to that. I know it was reconstructed, from what I understand, in the exact location that it was previously one time in the past.
I mean,
that's why it's not historic, because it was already demolished and rebuilt in that existing non-conforming location over the property line.
I mean, if it's always been north-south, I don't see why the ARB is so hot to have it go east-west. I mean, I could see if it was one time, if it was east-west, I could see them want to return to that. But if it's never been east-west, I don't understand their reasoning. maybe it doesn't make that much difference to us, I don't know.
The existing orientation, as it's built right now, that's the orientation that the ARB would like and that the applicant is now asking for. The approved orientation was rotated.
We did rotate it?
Yes.
Excuse me, board. There was somebody named Tiffany. I just missed her last name.
Scarlato.
Would you like me to allow her to speak for, maybe she has the answer to your question? Is that possible?
Maybe.
I think that would be great if Tiffany could shed light on.
Is that all right with you guys? Because her hand's been up for a little bit, so maybe she knows the answer. Okay, Tiffany, I'm going to allow you to be a panelist.
I'm back. Tiffany's muted, yeah.
There we go. There she is.
Hi, everyone. How are you?
Good.
So the reason for our reapplication to you was because we had originally sought approval for the barn in a different orientation, running east-west. The Architectural Review Board and the Sanborn map actually shows that structure almost in the same location that we're seeking approval for it now, and in the same orientation, which is why the ARB felt it necessary or suggested that we come back to you for a variance so that we could maintain it in its historic location. As I said, we had the historic Sanborn map, which I know is the map that they use for the orientation of structures and locations, which has that structure in that location.
All right, so it now sits north-south. The ARB wants it to be east-west. Is that correct? I want to make sure I got my facts right here.
It now sits north-south, and we want to keep it north-south. We just want
keep it north-south
back to a more conforming location.
All right, okay.
And the Sanborn map, Tiffany, if you could send that to us, you're saying the Sanborn map shows it in a north-south
Absolutely.
orientation.
Yes, I will submit that to the board.
Stay in the same orientation and they just want it moved a bit, right?
Exactly.
All right, so I was making a little more of this than I thought it was. It doesn't seem to be any big deal, does it? Change in orientation would be a larger deal than just moving it a bit and keeping it in the same orientation.
Right, and the board did approve a different orientation for the structure as originally proposed. We're going back to the more historic orientation.
Going back to north-south.
Yes, retaining north-south.
The way it sits right now.
Yes,
And in our case, we allowed it to be east-west.
exactly.
All right, so they want it to stay north-south.
Yes.
And Tiffany, it doesn't infringe upon the right-of-way? In other words, when the property is subdivided, is it?
No, it does not. There'd be a 9-foot setback from the common driveway, from the flag. So there's a 9-foot setback on one side and 5 feet on the other. So there's no encroachment on the flag.
Yeah, Kevin, if it's showing on the Sanborn map in that orientation, I might defer to that. That's okay with me.
Okay, seems fine with me.
Fine with me. Yeah, just housekeeping.
Where are you, Dan?
What's that?
Did you drive back or you're away?
I'm up at my daughter's in Massachusetts.
You look very relaxed.
Yeah.
He's sitting outside somewhere.
Yeah, they're they're noisy inside, so he went out on the porch. So
Good. Any more comment on that? You want to write that one, David, for next?
Sure, no problem.
All right. 3073, Chica. This is a tough one. Hungry. 500 cat was
Let's
next
just
one.
leave it at 3073.
Yeah.
3073 is better. Chick, what about this one?
So this one was, we had provided a memo at the last meeting. There were just a few questions and comments on the landscape plan. I did speak with the applicant today, and they do not have the revised plan available yet. So I don't have a decision for the work session. If everything comes in and checks out between now and the meeting, I'm happy to prepare a decision. The board did ask me to proceed with that. They respond to our fairly minor comments. This was just a landscape restoration plan. It was a good plan, and we had a couple of fine-tuning items to discuss with them. If that comes in, I'll have a decision ready for next week.
So we can close this one then for decision? If it's all right with the board.
Yeah, I'm fine if Chick writes it,
Yeah,
and when he gets the information he wants, and then it meets his criteria, and he writes a decision, I'm okay with it.
Okay. Anybody
so
else?
not Kevin.
What?
I'm fine too.
Okay.
Yep, me
Okay.
as 3, 4.
This one for decision. I have a motion to close it for decision.
You have a motion to close it for decision, Kevin.
And a second.
I'll
Second,
second.
All in favor? Aye.
aye.
I didn't do it on the previous one. We should probably go back and on 3071 close that one for decision too. I have a motion to close 3071 for decision.
I'll second all motion.
I have a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And we better do it for Symphonic Realty too, 3070.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All three of those have now been closed for decision. I'm going to leave them in the hands of our able attorney.
Thank you.
Pending cases, but we're not doing anything with Stone, are we?
I have not seen anything new come in. We did provide a fairly extensive comment letter at the last meeting. So if something comes in, we can certainly review it, but I'm not aware that anything has at this time.
Okay. So that one just stays on the pending list until we get a chance to look at some new information, if any comes in. We see, I don't know, the board seems to have some mixed feelings on this one, right? Whether it should be rebuilt or not rebuilt, or part of it should be rebuilt, or part of it should not be rebuilt.
I'm not sure how mixed we were. I thought we were in a general agreement that the portion adjacent to the house that was created by the neighbor to the west as a result of her adding fill could be rebuilt, but nothing in the wetlands could be rebuilt. I thought that was...
All right, so you're talking about the portion of the wall and the first roof.
Is that your recollection, Dan?
That's how I still feel that way. They can, anything on the upland they can do, anything in the wetland, no.
All right.
Right.
I'll leave that open, or you want to close it?
I don't know, how, does the rest of the board agree with Mark and myself, or?
Yes, I agree with both of you.
I do too.
There was a request from First Coastal put in at the last meeting to adjourn it to the July public hearing. So that meeting was still, that public hearing is still open. I don't believe you can close it now during a work session.
So we'll leave it open.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. 3050, Community Baptist Church. I'm sure we have a couple people for this one. Curtis and John.
And the plans had revised plans came in.
Yes. There'll be no more garage apartments. There'll be 2 apartments on the second floor. I think of the 2-family house will now become a 3-family house.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's on the second floor.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I did like the way it sat on the property as all one building rather than that little silly little garage they had.
Yeah.
I did think it was an improvement.
Think it's an improvement?
Yes.
I think so too. It's one less building on the site.
Right.
And it centralizes it right in the middle of the property rather than two buildings.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it also eliminated access off of Powell as well.
Yeah, there's no access to the property on Powell. That's all I'm saying. Pretty interesting how they did it. You got one 3-bedroom apartment. Now, a 1-bedroom apartment is over the garage, and then another 3-bedroom apartment. You're getting a whole lot out of this property. Interesting design.
And they sort of pull the parking in close to the building so it's not all over the yard.
Right.
You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces, it appears to me. It's 7 bedrooms, so it needs 6 spaces. And they show 6 spaces.
And they have use of the parking lot that they're building behind the house too, for the church.
Uh-huh.
I think it answered everything that we asked of them to consider at the last meeting.
Do we have John or?
Does Curtis or John want to speak to it?
Yes, we have both are in attendance. I was waiting for you guys to finish the discussion to, you'd like me to allow them to be panelists so you can speak with them?
Sure.
Okay, John's here, and here comes Curtis. Both of you guys need to unmute and just turn on your video, please.
Hello.
Hey, Curtis.
Hello.
John?
Well, I really just wanted you to know that when you guys speak, Curtis and I listen. So seriously, I think we took into account hopefully all your concerns with it, really re-engineered and not only redesigned and put all the units in one building and redesigned the site plan and eliminated a space, an access way. So hopefully this is much more to your liking. I think it actually it ends up from the way that it sits on the property and sits in the center, and just generally how it blends into the neighborhood is actually a superior design. So actually, thank you very much for that. I don't know, Curtis, I don't know how you feel, but.
Curtis, you're muted.
Curtis is mute.
You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So I thank you all for your suggestions. What happens is now not only is the entire building focus center of the property, but also the runway or trafficking for that particular section, that lot, is all on the side roads. So I think it answers to the neighbors' concerns. It answers to some of your concerns with regards to so much happening on the two separate buildings. I hope it holds up in ARB, but I believe, you would think I would have an in, but I heard the first conversation, and at times people have different thoughts. This actually increases the opportunity to have what I consider to be a harmonious, affordable housing development without being overbuilt, without having 10, 20, or 30 units on a small lot. And I think that even the location of the parking makes it harmonious for the people residing on the property, that they won't be in each other's way.
Yeah, I think you did a real good job of addressing the concerns that we had and putting it in the paper.
Thanks. Thank you. I don't think we have anything else to add unless the board wants some more information from us or anything else.
Fine with me. I'm ready to close this decision if the rest of the board is.
I am.
I am.
Nope.
Amen.
Again, we're at a work session. You can't close the public hearing on it.
No, but we're all in agreement.
We're all in agreement. Yeah, so you're right to the decision. Well, we close those other ones. All right.
Those were pending. Those were already closed.
Already pending. You're right. decision. Okay, so we can close it next week then, right?
Yep.
You want to have a decision for next week?
If you'd like me to, I can do that.
I think we're all in agreement. Right?
Yes.
Yes.
Good.
Thank you all. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Curtis.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. 3065 South Lane Properties LLC regarding 72 Gin Lane. We got a lot of correspondence on this from our own attorney, from John Bennett, and from the attorney for the applicant or the complainant.
If I may.
Yep.
So I've reviewed the correspondence from the applicant, from Mr. Bennett, including Mr. Gibbons was kindly provided the lower court decision in Blyer. I've also reviewed the papers from the village special outside counsel in the Supreme Court matter. And I've come to the legal opinion that under Blyer, as the neighboring parcel does not have any standing to enforce the covenant, then they don't have the standing to challenge this determination, the building inspector's determination, which is consistent with Blyer. It's a scenic easement that was sought to be challenged by a neighboring property owner. And the Supreme Court said it's properly in Article 78. This should be a challenge, but that party has no standing to bring it since they were not a party to the easement or an intended beneficiary, specifically named in it. And I feel that's consistent with the covenant and restriction here as well. This parcel of the applicant was not part of that subdivision, was not a named beneficiary or a party that had any ability to enforce that covenant as part of that subdivision.
Good for me. Anybody else?
The only thing I did is I looked on Google Earth and I looked up and down Dune Road, and, neighboring houses, and I mean, there's similar conditions to what this guy's complaining about all up and down Dune Road. So this is, so I think what he it's a bridge too far. He's shooting for the moon for something that is a common occurrence up and down the whole beach.
Anybody else?
No, if it's a legal matter, they don't have standing. I'm not gonna. That's enough for me.
So you've got everything, David, right?
Yes.
Do you want to write the decision, or do you want to wait a while?
I think with that one, we'll still need the public hearing, and then we can, if the board so decides, to close it at that, and then have a decision afterwards.
Okay.
Excuse me, Chair. I do have two people with their hands up. I have a John Bennett and a Thomas Gibbons. Would you like me to allow them to speak?
Sure.
Can I say something before we bring others into it?
Sure.
Which is, as a point of learning, we've been talking about this now for 4 or 5 months, and the question has been whether or not there was standing all the way along. Was there something that, as a group, we should have done differently in order to shorten the length of time that we've been in this discussion? Because I think we've all been wrestling with trying to understand whether or not there was standing. And I'd like to learn from this, because I feel like we've been in this conversation for a long time.
Yeah, I think we would have been done with this a long while ago. If it was not for the virus interrupted our meeting. We didn't have a March meeting. We didn't have an April meeting. It wasn't until May that we got started with the Zoom meeting. So maybe that kind of...
And to address that question as counsel, what my issues with the cases being cited was generally to put on the applicant or the opposition to prove otherwise. So yes, maybe in the future, if I had looked for that prior decision that's not a published decision sooner, we could have clarified it earlier. So I, will note that, and instead of putting it entirely on the applicant or the opposition to, more fully articulate a case would be to obtain that sooner on on behalf of the board on my own.
Okay.
Hey, David, this is a work
Yes.
session, correct? So
Yes.
we're really not going to take any testimony into this case right now, right? Unless we have a question for the observers. They're not participants at this point, correct?
Correct. This is just a work session.
Right.
They'll have their opportunity at the public meeting.
People want to speak in, but we don't want to take testimony. So do we do it?
Well, as the board had previously discussed, I believe you were open to a limited comment, but clearly not in the nature of testimony.
All right. I guess if we open it up, can you
Can we put a time limit on?
explain it to the speakers that we're not accepting testimony, but a comment, I guess.
We're only going to repeat what we've already heard, and they're going to repeat it again next week.
Right.
Yeah, if that's your decision, I think you're saying it now. If you feel the comments are getting beyond that, then the board is well within their rights to curtail that and have it just done at the public hearing.
That's what I think.
Should we give them some time anyway, or should we just let them speak next week if they want to speak?
I'm for letting them speak next week, If we do let them speak now, we're just going to hear it twice.
Right.
Oh, we don't want to hear them now. Right?
Right.
Okay,
I'm good with that.
good. So we won't listen to John, and we won't listen to the attorney for the other side of this.
Okay, so John did lower his hand, but I don't know who Thomas Gibbons is. I don't know if that's...
He's the attorney for the applicant, for the appealing neighbor.
Okay, he just put his hand down too. They must have both understood. Okay.
Dan, I mentioned before that Diane in the office yesterday told me that we could start having meetings in the boardroom next month if we want to. What's your opinion on that?
I'm fine. Would we do it? Would we maybe not on the dais, but down below where we could social distance a little bit? I think it'd be better.
If anybody wants to speak to us, they'd wait in the parking lot like the ARB is doing now, and then they could come in. I just want to make sure it's fine with everybody.
Yeah, I think we have to.
I'd be fine with it if the board's comfortable with that.
Okay.
I would like to do some follow-up just to really understand what that will mean in terms of being in a public building, in terms of distancing. I want to have a clear understanding of that before I say what I'm going to do.
People up on the dais and a couple other people down the end of the tables.
Mm-hmm.
The attorney could sit where he normally sits. He's far away from us anyway. And then we wouldn't have anybody in except us until we called them in. And then we call them in ones and twos.
Mm-hmm. Kevin, I think offline, I'd just like to have some reassurances from the office in terms of ensuring that we're talking about 6 feet at the very least. And if that's something that we can assure ourselves of, then I'd be comfortable with it. But I wouldn't be just anecdote. I want to know that. I mean, we've all, in parts of our lives, done a lot to ensure our health.
Having no problem with it. And they were separating. Maybe if you want to go up to the village office and ask Diane, about the mechanics of it, she can tell you. But she told me that the ARB, I don't know if they've done it once or twice.
I believe they did it last night. I think that was their first time for the ARB.
Second on the ARB.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Antoinette.
So they've done it twice. And there's lots of room in there for us to separate ourselves. We can space that.
I'm okay with Brian.
All right. Okay, Julie, or do you want to go in and
I'm not going to tell you. I don't have an answer for you right now, Kevin. I'd want to have I'd like to have a conversation with the staff people about what steps they're taking before I make that commitment. I'm sure you'll understand
For the
that.
time being, can we say
and talk to Diane upstairs?
For the time being, can we say that next Thursday will still be a Zoom public meeting?
Yes.
Yes, it definitely is. We can't renotice anything.
Okay.
No problem.
Or it would be August, whatever the first meeting in August is, like the middle of August and then the end of August.
By the time we see each other next week, I will have done my due diligence.
Good, very good. All right, 3066 ASO Realty LLC, 145 Cooper's Farm Road. This is an application to expand the livable area, like putting something over something.
Part of my homework from the last meeting was to speak with Chris Talbot regarding the parking. He says it does comply. There is 6 spaces for 7 bedrooms. The 2 in the garage can be blocked by 2 in the driveway. You can't stack more than that. So you're allowed 1 behind another, but no deeper than that. So there would be 2 in the garage, 2 in the square portion of the driveway, and 2 in the circle. So it does have sufficient parking. And he said if anything requires a county upgrade for the septic by adding this bedroom, then that would be required as well, just pursuant to standard building code.
They're not going to increase the footprint, right?
Yeah, Kevin, I should speak to this. I had some time to think this through. I think that, and I didn't interrupt you, did I?
No, go ahead.
You sure? It's this Zoom format. Sometimes I can't.
I'm fine.
I mean, when I look at this application, this is why you have a gross floor area law. It's exactly because of a substantial increase in the mass of the house that does not conflict with any other dimensional requirements. So pushing out over the garage, pushing out over the side, exceeding the GFA. I mean, I don't see how I could vote yes for this.
Well, I have a concern because I think we're going to see a series of these applications. We've already seen more than one. I think we're going to see a series of these. So I agree with you, Mark. I think we've got to be real careful with this. Otherwise, we're going to have them lined up outside the door. Everybody whose house is now 4,000 square feet want to be 4,500 square feet or 5,000 square feet. And they're all going to have the same argument. Oh, we're not increasing the footprint. You know? So I think we got to be real careful with this.
I think so too.
I mean, these houses are quite large to start with. You know?
Right, they are.
And they're putting them on what, half-acre lots in Cooper's Farm?
Mm-hmm.
And most are half-acre lots, right?
Right.
Other than the GFA, if you go back to the detriment to the neighborhood versus the consideration of the owner, I could see where they could put like a dormer on the back of the garage, and it wouldn't affect the neighbor. It would benefit the owner because they could get that extra bedroom they need. But I think that the porches in the front, and the porches on the east side, and all of that was too much of a stretch.
Agreed.
I think they could scale this back a lot and still get their bedrooms. That's really what they wanted.
How many bedrooms they have now? 5?
I believe 6.
Yeah, it was a lot.
They want 7. It's a very large house. You know?
But what they were explaining, it's not like a party house. It seems like they have a bunch of kids and they want them each to have a bedroom, is what it sounded like.
Right.
Well, Dan, that's what I thought too, and I didn't want to get too much into that, except the idea of having a 7-bedroom house. That's more bedrooms than most houses. 7 bedrooms. That's not even on an acre. 7 bedrooms is on the second floor is more than most.
Yeah, it's a lot. That's why, like I think this is a stretch, And wasn't there an office up there too? Isn't that where one of them was?
Plus an office.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll just leave that one as is, and we'll have to discuss it next week at the public meeting.
Right.
Maybe at that time, we can give you some direction, David, about a decision for the following meeting.
Julie, what's your sense on that one?
My sense of it was, actually, my concern was more about the second story terraces at the time, in terms of it just seemed to be adding mass on the lot. So I'm not in any disagreement at all with anything else that's been said.
Good. That ends the pending cases. You have a bunch of new cases. I don't know, do you want to discuss them or what?
Well, Kevin, I'm going to sign off because I'm going to go through the paperwork. I'm up here with my family. We just got in, and I haven't even visited with them yet. I just jumped on the meeting, so I'll do the new cases with you guys next week when we're at the meeting, and I'll review them during the week.
Yeah, we have to do our field visits anyway before we can really know what's going on with all that properties. In the past, we have not always discussed the new cases at the work session. Of course, we wanted to go see them.
Bob Vinny saying it was a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Yep. That okay with everybody, or are there any cases on the new cases that they do want to discuss?
No, that's fine with me. I mean, to hear everybody's presentation and to visit the properties is a good idea before next Thursday.
I'll see you guys next week.
We have all the paperwork, so.
Bye, Dan.
Good to see you. Have a good time. David?
So in the time that I've been coming to these meetings, this will be the first time that we're not talking about new cases at a work session.
You know, historically, we never
Fine.
did. We have a few times lately, but before that, we didn't usually discuss them. We waited until after we'd seen them. I mean, if you want to discuss them, it's fine.
And I'm perfectly fine to wait.
Okay, good. David, you ready?
I have no problem with that.
Guess we can close the meeting then, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Should we close
Right.
the session?
Yeah, nothing more from me. Thank you.
Okay. Can we have a motion?
I will make a motion to close the meeting.
Can I have a
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 See you all next Thursday.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
all. Good night.
Take care.